Hello, everybody. Thanks for coming. Welcome to Women in Game Development. We have the best job ever. I'm so glad you came. Before we get started, I want to introduce our panelists. I guess we'll start with me, and we can work our way down. I'm Brianna Lindsay. I'm currently an effects artist at ZeniMax Online. I got my start in the industry actually when I was 18, game testing at Nintendo of America. Yeah, I know, right? So that was kind of, wow, that was a while ago. My first real job as a developer, well, Q is part of game development too, but I was really lucky and I got an internship on a little game called Insanely Twisted Shadow Planet, which is really awesome. And from there, I worked as an art outsourcer for a while at a company called Effectsville. Then I worked at Disney for a while, and then I moved up to Maryland to work on Elder Scrolls Online at ZeniMax, and now I'm here. So, yeah, how about you?
Oh,
yeah?
Ooh, me? Oh, sorry, I adjust this a little bit. So, hi, my name is Gwen, and I've been in game development for 10 years. Started in sports games, of all places, at 2K Sports in 2004. Worked there for several years, went to Zendegi Games, worked on the Sony PlayStation Move, I think it's called Sports Championship, never heard of it actually. But, and then 6 years ago, I moved up here to Seattle to start working for ArenaNet, and currently I'm working on Guild Wars 2, and I'm an environment artist, for those who are curious. I do 3D modeling and texturing and all that kind of generic stuff, but it's not very special. But yeah, it's fun.
Woo. Hi, my name is Brittany. I work at Fitcell. I got my start in the industry as an engineer, and my first title was Scribblenauts, and I wrote content tools for the art pipeline. Since then, I've become a producer, so I do a lot of team management, and I've worked primarily on the Scribblenauts franchise my whole career.
Hi, I'm Sarah Grissom. Most people just call me Grissom, and I've been working since 2010 in game development. I started out as a special effects artist and still a special effects artist today. My first project, my first gig was at the Amazing Society, which is like a smaller company under Gazillion working on Superhero Squad Online, like kids Marvel MMO. And then from there I went to Gas Power Games and worked on Age of Empires Online. We worked on a little contract for with Cryptozoic called the Hex trading card game, and like a couple of other projects. And then from there I went to Effectsville, where Brianna was also at, and I'm still there now. I just wrapped up Shadow of Mordor. Go check that out. It's so good. The effects are amazing. And actually, I'm going to be starting up with Undead on Tuesday, so party. Yeah.
Hi, my name is Joanna, and I'm a game designer at Treyarch. My first job in the game industry is being a QA tester at Nintendo. That was more like a summer job kind of thing for a few months. And then I also did part-time for Microsoft for the certification testing every so often. And then my first real kind of full-time thing was as a game design intern at Treyarch between my junior and senior year at DigiPen. Then after I graduated from DigiPen, I went back to Treyarch as a full-time game designer. So I worked on Black Ops 1 and Black Ops 2 Call of Duty.
Hi, I'm Samantha Kalman. I'm an independent game developer locally here in Seattle, based on Capitol Hill. And I started in the industry right out of high school. I wanted to make games since I played Final Fantasy VI. And yeah, Narsh, right? Narsh. So then I had tried to learn programming as a kid and didn't like it. So I got into testing right out of high school through kind of like a miraculous series of events. I was also doing compliance testing for Xbox. Did that for a little while, and then I started learning software testing. Was kind of out of games for a while, and trying to learn programming again. I found Unity, which was this little tiny program. It was 1.0. It was made by like 4 people in Denmark. I was like, what's this crazy thing? It's only for Mac? What? And just started making a bunch of really bad games. And then I became the QA director for Unity and shipped a bunch of versions of Unity. And then I broke off to go independent, made a little music game called Sen, which was really terrible, and then tried to do another version called Centris, which I'm working on now, and is in early access as of last week.
All right, so I want to let you know why we're doing this panel. I actually come in with an agenda. It's a not-so-secret agenda. I want you to know that this game industry that we all work in and that we all love, it's something that you can get into. I really love what I do. I actually believe that I do have the best job in the world. That is something that, I mean, I don't ever plan on leaving this industry. I don't know how my panelists feel, that's how I feel. And I am really, really proud to be a game developer. And, you know, a lot of people out there, you know, they might think that it's, I mean, it is really hard to get in. I mean, don't get me wrong. But if you if you work really hard, it's something that you can do, and it doesn't matter, you know, what your gender is. I mean, if you put in the time, if you put in the effort, you can make a game. And you don't necessarily need to be a programmer either. I mean, there are indies out there that, you know, they make things with Game Maker. So I just wanted to get that out there. Like, the first thing you see is that, yes, this is why we're here. That's my agenda. The other thing is, I don't speak for the industry entirely. So before I put this panel together, I was thinking, you know, I mean, I don't speak for the industry, and I've only got a handful of voices here that work in the industry. So I put a survey out to my industry contacts. I went out to Twitter, and I went out to game development groups and Facebook, and I said, hey, if you're a game developer, can you fill out this survey for me? And I got about 165 responses, which is a little more than I was expecting. I mean, it was actually a pretty sizable amount of responses, and about a third of them were women, and I thought that was pretty cool. Something else that I wanted to note while I'm talking about surveys, the IGDA puts out a quality of life survey every year, and in, I think it was 2009, only about 11% of the responders were women, and in like 5 years later, in 2014, it was up to 22%. So that's a 10%. That's like an almost double increase. Yeah. In like 5 years. So, we're seeing more and more women developers. Like, I didn't think that I would get this many people, responding that were women. So I was actually really happy that it was at 29%. That's basically a third. So that's awesome. So in my survey, I asked questions like, do you think your team is supportive of you? What is your job enjoyment? And most people said, I really like my job. Most people said that their company culture was pretty solid. About 79% said it was a 4 or 5 on a scale of 1 to 5. Most people said their teammates were pretty supportive of them professionally. But probably the most damaging statistic was that they didn't like their work-life balance. There was a lot of people that said, I hate crunch. And I agree with that.
Does anyone like it?
No.
I love it.
That was the number one thing that I saw coming back again and again was we need to fix how many hours we work to get a product out. So
we need to work more. We need more games for the children. Don't ever go home.
No. So I also had a comment box for each of these questions, and what did these devs have to say? These are all anonymous, by the way. Somebody said, I enjoy it, it's been challenging, it's been a fun career full of a variety of experiences, projects, and locations. On Teams, somebody said, my team, they're always around if I need to ask for help. They, encourage me. On their culture, they say, we work when we want, we work where we want, we work ungodly hours, but we control them. And a work-life balance, somebody said, crunch and pressure to crunch more. So, this is just kind of like a couple answers that I pulled, but they, I tried to pull ones that kind of, had the same general feeling of what everyone else was saying. But yeah, that was, I just kind of wanted to see what other people had to say. Anyway, I'm going to start getting into the panel. This is actually a panel, and it's not a talk about surveys. I know. So I'm going to ask my first question, and after I ask this question, I'm going to read some of the responses I got from my survey, and then we're going to talk about it here on this panel. So the first question I asked was, what is your favorite thing about being a developer? And on my survey results, I got a couple of really cool responses. Somebody said, watching players enjoy my game for the first time. Somebody else said, creation. Creation is divine. Writing incantations that create wondrous worlds makes me feel like a wizard. Wow. There's also a lot of really cool people in the industry. And a third person said, the moment when someone plays what you made and they delight in it. So how about you guys? What's your favorite thing about being a developer?
I'll start. My favorite thing is the people I work with. As a manager, I get the experience to work with the entirety of the team and to kind of see what their strengths, what their weaknesses are. And while we do have long hours sometimes, we have shared experiences. We say like we're going to war together. But we learn and grow so much from each other. And every time we have someone new start at the company, I always say welcome to the family, because it's legitimately a family. I would do anything to make sure that these people have
a similar answer to a lot of the people answering the survey, which is like the player enjoyment. My team blows, I don't like them. Although, actually, I think that players, a lot of the people you work with are players, and so watching, other departments delight in what you're making, or watching them notice things that like you put in there, and they're like, oh yeah, this looks really good. Like you added that little blue at the end, and I'm like, oh really? I didn't think you'd catch that. The first time, actually, I really enjoyed sort of what I was doing. I just put stuff in games that I think will be funny or fun, or like I try to like make myself like it. So like there was on Superhero Squad, I put this like trapped pigeon in like a Venom symbiote like spider web thing, and like he's flapping around and there's like feathers coming off, and everybody's like, that's a little weird, Grissom. And I'm like, whatever, it's fun, who cares? And like I saw a screenshot of it online. Someone's like, they caught a pigeon in there, and I'm like, yes! Someone gets it. That's amazing. You and me, man, that little 12-year-old kid. So yeah, I have player enjoyment and making something that your team also really loves to play. So that's my favorite thing.
Yeah, so same thing here from Sarah, that player enjoyment is definitely something I value the most. Because that's my favorite thing. I'm a game designer, so I really want my players to enjoy what I produce and make and create and all that. But for me, it's more about, since I'm a game designer, I love changing someone's view on things, perspective on things. In some ways, it's just like putting the players in someone else's shoes in a safe environment, whatever message you're trying to get across to them, right? It could be controversial, or it could be as simple as just making the players feel powerful or smart, clever about a certain puzzle, or you give them a rocket launcher, now they could blow up all the environment in the space, just being able to give them something, wherever that enjoyment is. It could be scariness, it could be fun, you could put a smile on their face, but whatever that is about, for me, is about just being able to create an environment that lets them to be somebody who they're not. And I find that a very enjoyable challenge.
I also really like meeting developers, and I work alone, so I'm kind of like, I don't have a team that I can work with, and I don't get to build camaraderie, not yet at least. So I'm kind of like in a weird spot, but it's a great supportive community, and I really enjoy meeting so many amazing, talented people. There's also like, we all have all these ideas, right? Like, oh, this would be an awesome game. This would be an awesome game. And when I'm a designer first, so I tend to really think a lot about like, well, is this gonna work? And how do I make this idea manifest in this interactive thing? And will it be fun? Will it be good? Will it be delightful? I hope Yes, for everything. And and game development's difficult, and it takes long periods of time where you're doing a lot of work. But every once in a while, you get a moment where you can see the idea beginning to come to life, and you can get a sense that, yes, actually, this is going to work, and it's really special. And I wish somehow that I could have those moments every day. But when they arrive, they're really fantastic. So those moments are my favorite.
There's definitely a punctuation on like the entire like process. Like it's hard and it's frustrating, but I don't think it would be nearly as rewarding if it weren't hard or arduous or time consuming or like doing the same thing over and over again. But like that last little bit is so good.
It feels good.
Yeah.
My favorite thing is getting paid. Seriously, no. It's a lot of what these quotes are pretty much spot on. I mean, it's definitely a joy to work with players that, or play with players that, like, they totally enjoy your stuff, and then like know that you made it or that you contributed to a part of it. But there's something else I wanted to add, and that's kind of a unique situation that I came from, which is that I have the privilege of working with a bunch of people that I actually studied and admired since I was in art school.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah, like in 2004, I graduated art school in 2004, and before then I actually studied a lot of the artists that I currently work with, and it's actually kind of a privilege and kind of a surreal thing. It's like, oh my goodness, I remember looking online and being like, oh, this guy's so cool. Oh, that the art is so amazing. I want to work with him. And then one day, I am. And it's almost like a humbling experience to be like, oh shucks, I can't believe I'm here. Oh wait, I look at this, an employee badge, it has my name on it.
We had that same thing happen at our office. We recently, like 6 months or so ago, hired an animator who had worked on The Neverhood, which is one of my favorite childhood games. And I get his resume and I'm just like, oh my god. And I was sitting there in the interview like, tell me everything. And now I get to work with that guy. So I'm learning so much from everyone on my team and all these shared experiences, and it's amazing.
So at least for me, my favorite thing, especially like something that I've been, developing over the last in my current role as effects artist, I like trying to make my next thing crazier than the last thing I made. Like I always find myself doing that. I'm like, how can I make this more awesome? And I don't know. It's just I feel just like, I guess, getting better and progressing and seeing like, games getting crazier and crazier in their effects. It's just I really love that. I love seeing like myself change and seeing like the games that I make change and just seeing just how things are getting cooler. I don't know if that makes sense. 'Cause I mean, like if you look at the games from like 10 years ago, it's like those effects aren't all that good. But I mean, like the tech's getting better, I'm getting better, the industry's getting better, and I actually really, really like that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
All right.
Oh, sorry. Go for it.
You want to say something else before I move on?
Yeah, I did. I was on the surreal thing and like seeing where you are now versus like where you were back then. I'm actually like on a panel right now with somebody that I followed like on Twitter like years ago because she was like cool Unity developer, and I'm like following all these Unity people, and like I met her yesterday and I'm like, yeah, this is fine. This is cool. It's not terrifying at all. But like that's another part of the being a game developer that's really cool. Like most of us grew up playing games and like admiring people from afar, and like suddenly we're in it, and it's like
And they're your buddies.
They're your buddies, hopefully.
Yeah. Yeah, meeting your heroes is like one of the most amazing things. It's a small world.
Yeah.
You see someone talk, and then you get to meet them, and then they know who you are, and it's incredible.
All right, I'm gonna move on to our next one. One of the other questions I asked was, why do you think diversity matters, and how does it affect game development? And on the survey, I got a lot of responses to this. Somebody said diversity and equality in any professional field is important. It allows for varied perspectives to influence projects and just lets people be better to each other. Someone else said, a good product is made stronger by different points of view, working together. Problems are solved in more interesting ways. Having a solid variety of genders and ethnicities on the same team can enrich the team experience and the end product. Diverse perspectives create better content, better for the bottom line. And this one was sad. I wanted to include it anyway. Everybody should get a chance to hate the thing they love. The frowny face was added by me.
But that's true. Like, I think when all of us end up shipping the game, we're just like, oh my god. Like, I have a hard time playing my games after I come out because all I see is the imperfections. But it's at one point you just have to put it on the disc and send it out, or push the button and put it on Steam. So yeah.
I actually have a somewhat similar experience at first, but actually opposite experience in the end. I started in sports games, and I already hated sports games before I worked for sports games. So I ended up hating it even more. Which is absurd, actually. I would walk into GameStop and I would see like 2K Sports, MLB, 2K7 or 2K8. I'm like, oh god, it's just. I cringe to think about all the years I spent on that. Oh god, I hope no one here, right? But
some people really like working on sports games.
There is a video of this.
That is true. That is true. I'm just saying I'm not one of them. But what I did enjoy was Guild Wars. Actually, ironic. I'm not being paid. I'm not being paid right now to say this, but. Right, I started working at ArenaNet in 2008, but I actually started playing the game and fell in love with the game back in 2005, and it was kind of similar to like the weirdness that I'm working with people that I admire, but also working for the game that you fell in love before you like started working for them. It's kind of a surreal experience on a whole nother level, because after the game shipped, I was still enjoying it after what I'm making it. It's just like, oh my goodness, I'm having fun, and then once in a while I'll stop and like, wait a minute, I made that, that's cool.
So in terms of diversity, like why it matters, at least for me, my current office, like we actually have like quite a few women compared to some other places I've worked at. But one of the things I really like about that is that it makes the office feel a lot more professional. Mm-hmm. I mean, I don't know, it's just like the professionalism of everybody kind of goes up a little bit. Like there's less like, inappropriate jokes, I feel. I mean, it's just like, I don't know, it's like a subconscious thing almost.
People are more aware of their...
They're a little more aware of it, which is nice.
They aren't trapped in their little bubble where...
Yeah, and you also, I get the opportunity, if something, like maybe they don't realize they're putting something in that might not be good, I can be like, hey,
you can be that guy.
Yeah, I can be that guy. If you're not that guy, then your product goes out, and then that's, there's stuff in there that's not good. I mean, you have to speak up.
Yeah.
And that's I don't know, I'm really glad that my company is like, I mean, it's not super gender diverse, but I mean, there's like another effects artist that's a woman on my team, and I really like that.
Yeah, we have a woman in every single department, so programming, art, design, production.
We have a woman in every single department.
Yay! We like to
That's
like.
just a fact.
Yeah, we have about 20% women at our office, which is very high. I like to joke that there's 2 women per bathroom stall.
That's a lot.
Yeah.
That's not a joke.
No, that's quite a few. Like, people are walking in, they're like, wow, there's a lot of ladies here. And it's nice, and I think our games are better as a result because we have that diversity. The other thing, too, is that when we say diversity, we don't necessarily mean like gender, sexual orientation, race. We also mean different ages and different life experiences. I know in our office we have a lot of parents, and we have a lot of soon-to-be parents and new parents. We also have a lot of people without kids. And you're going to experience different things in life. We also have people who are in their 40s and 50s in our office, and they've either been working on games a short amount of time. We have someone in our office who actually worked on Disney films for like a good 10 years, and then she taught herself how to animate and like joined the game industry. So it's like she has a completely different experience that none of us have made, because I don't know how to make a movie. But you see that in her work and all of that experience coming in. She's also having a baby, which is like, oh my god, yay!
That's awesome. So that's another thing, ageism. Ageism is a pretty big thing. Like somebody called out my panel, they were like, hey, why are you all like 20 and 30 years old? I'm like, oh, I should have gotten more senior people on my panel. Sorry, Becky. Yeah, it's a big thing. Like people are especially like that Silicon Valley culture of just like valuing young people over the more experienced people, and like you really need to have that mix because I mean, I kind of know what I'm doing, but I mean, there's just people that have been. Well, I'm pretty sure I know what I'm doing, but like, there's people that have been doing it for years and years, and like, no, Brianna, like you. Yeah,
or you can do it this way, and you do it in half the amount of time, and the quality's better.
Yeah, exactly.
You end up learning those kind of things.
Exactly. So like, having age diverse people is really, really important too. I mean.
I want to echo what Brittany said about the importance of life experience. And I mean, this is a room of like over 100 people, maybe 200. We have 200 different life experiences, and all these different. This makes us a very diverse room right now. We all have different perspectives, and we should all feel empowered to tell our stories. And games are a great medium to tell a story because you can put someone inside the story, and it becomes more a part of their experience when they play it. So I think that just diversity of people and like games that are more personal and less like Shooty McShooterson, then like that's important. We need more of that in the industry.
I was about to say that too. Like the reason I think diversity is important is because there's a lot of games that are just kind of boring now. Like I mean, they were really fun. I really like to shoot guns in the games. It's a good thing sometimes, I guess. I don't know, but there's like 900 of them, and they all have the same like.
Will I be mobbed if I say I didn't like the last Zelda game?
Yes.
Shut your mouth.
Yes.
They're all the same.
Shut your mouth.
Sorry.
She's got a Triforce tattoo?
Yeah,
What
like-
did you just do?
They're gonna beat me up.
I mean, I know you just got out of the Royal Rumble, but we may need to have a sequel. Like.
You didn't like the new. What? Why? Sorry, we can.
That's
We'll take it offline. We'll take it offline later. But no, I mean, differing opinions also is very, very good. I hate it when I meet someone who doesn't like Zelda, but sometimes they tell me why, and I'm like, oh, well, okay, that makes sense. 'Cause,
Yeah.
like, I'm really into games that like are linear and make you feel good, and you don't have to deviate a lot, and like I'm the hero of time and I'm the best, and they're like, well, I like games where I can explore more, and and there's other people that are powerful too, and there's different endings, and I'm like, that's garbage. We should not make games like that. We should only make Zelda. And like that's don't be like me.
I like it too. It's pretty great, but I think I'm gonna move on to the next question.
Could I add something real quick, just so
Can I
go for it.
Oh yeah, go.
Have,
Like we've been attacking your genre.
Yeah. I mean, well, and plus, I feel like just for at least Call of Duty. I mean, I can't speak for others, FPS and whatnot. I mean, we as a studio. I'm not trying to say I'm speaking for the studio here, but I'm just saying, like, from what I've talked with my coworkers and all that, it's just we are all also tired of like the same. Okay, let's just shoot everything and let's explode. We do also try to have other things to do. We want to do explore, try to find other ways to do it, like add some RPG elements, just like what Modern Warfare did with the MP, which changed the way we play multiplayer nowadays. And we've also been exploring on just exploration, platforming. We as a studio, at least for Treyarch, have been trying to reach other areas than is just mindless shooting. It is fun. That is our core audience there. We cannot neglect that. That is our the people who be paying for those games. But
I like to eat.
Delicious bread and butter.
But as also developers, we're making 5 or 6, some been at Treyarch for like 10 years. So you imagine how many Call of Duties they have made. And they're just tired of that, and we want change. And that is something we do push for. And that's why, actually, in reality, a lot of people at Treyarch don't play FPS as their main genre. I mean, they are actually big avid MMO players, RPG players. Like they love Zelda. Whenever there's a new Zelda game, people will always do and month, we're planning to have like a bunch
Panel
of
divided.
tournament, Smash Brother tournaments. We love when there's a new Vita co-op game. Let's do that for lunch. We'll skip our lunchtime just to play other varied games. Shooters is not all we think about, but that just happens to be our job, and we need to find ways to keep that interesting. And trust me, there's pushes where there'll be days it's like, well, why don't we just, blow that building up? And then there'll be a couple people who's like, we've been blowing building up. Could we do something different?
I'm all for blowing buildings.
It makes the effects artist happy. But
We should blow it up.
Yeah, blow more things up.
exactly.
We should blow it up or like set it on fire or like maybe cast a magic spell on it.
Maybe we could change something that will be a little bit more different and creative, but that still utilize our effects department to create effects that are exploding. It could be whirlwinds, it could be sandstorms, it could be anything that could still display the talents of the effects artist.
Yeah.
In case any FBI agents is listening, we don't condone the blowing up of buildings. Not really.
Just for virtual building.
Yeah,
We're
right.
covering all of our bases on this today.
Video games, right?
Digital.
I mean, maybe we'll just be encouraging these FBI agents to make games instead.
Hey!
It sounds great. Yeah, it's good.
Federally funded games. I just want to add one last thing, and it's about my perception of that media in general, not just video games. This applies to movies, to television, to magazines. But media exists in a symbiotic relationship with the audience. Whatever it manufactures, the audience returns it in 10 to 20 years later, when the kids grow up or someone grow into the industry, and then they bring what inspired them in their youth back into that, kind of a regurgitation of what inspired you will be interjected back into the media. So it's actually really important at some point to kind of wedge into that process and have some control over it, because if we don't interrogate the diversity or lack of in the industry, then we'll just continue to manufacture the same things over and over again, re-inspire the same cliches, and then have that fed back right in. So in that case, lens flare may exist for like another 20 to 200 years.
I'm okay with that.
Why are you like
Okay, but I guess that's one of the good things is that good things could come and stay. But take my company for example. I'm the only transgender person in my company, and my presence is enough to interject a conversation of gender into our content, and that's just me alone. I mean, as far as I know, I don't know if there's other trans people in the company. Maybe I'm wrong, but that's part of the essence is that a diverse developer creates diverse product and inspires diverse audience to return to a diverse industry. So that's just what I wanted to add.
That's very good. Thank you. I accidentally clicked on my slide. There. Okay. All right. So my next question. We got a couple more things to get through, and we've got less time, so I might cut some of your answers a little shorter. Next question is, what's improved in the industry since you started your career? Some of the responses I got was a wider range of what we consider games, thanks to apps and portables. The art form medium is now much more accessible, with tools and knowledge sharing making it possible for literally anyone to make a game, including 5-year-old children. That's an opinion. I mean, I don't know.
It's true.
That's true. It's true. How we treat the customer. We've started to realize that we're working with our customers, not against them. And also way more variety in games available and support for the success of independent games that are well made and promoted. I think digital distribution has made the whole industry a more fun place to play and work. Also, DAT Oculus Rift. Yes.
Technology.
Yeah.
VR, yeah. I mean, there's been at least in terms of tools. I mean, I've seen a lot of progress, like Unreal 4. I don't know. It's crazy. We have better tools definitely than when I started.
Unity has gotten better too. I love Unity.
I like Unreal. It's really good.
They're both okay.
Sorry.
I agree. Technology has gotten better, but I feel like, for me at least, the more important improvements have been more social. Like, it's easier to, the knowledge is more easily accessible. Twitter is really great, and Unity Answers is really great if you're really stuck. The Unreal has a really great community online and stuff like that, and so it's not just meeting cool people that make cool games. It's actually sharing that knowledge. It's gotten so much easier. It was a little bit difficult to do unless you had more of a classical education in video games. I mean, whatever, but you didn't have to be a programmer.
Right. Whereas now, if I actually have a question and I'm reaching out to other developers, I can post it on Twitter and I will get responses from other developers. And it's just that we joke that the industry is very incestuous. Everybody knows everybody else.
It's true.
But because of that, you end up getting this sharing. Everyone wants to help everyone be better.
I totally agree with all these ladies up here, because the accessibility of developing games nowadays is anywhere. You could do it. You could pick up a tool, Unreal or Unity. It's a low cost of either free or a monthly payment that you could easily pick up those tools. There's plenty of tutorials out there. There's plenty of other developers out there going through the same thing that you're going through. So there's no excuse why you cannot be a game developer right now, right this second, after this whole entire.
And go home and download.
Yeah.
Counting on you.
Yeah, the barriers to entry and all the bars are getting lower in general across the board. If you don't want to make something with 3D or 2D, there's Twine.
Yes.
There's an abundance of tools. I'm a terrible graphics programmer, so I use a tool for Unity to make shaders using a graphical interface. And there's for people that don't want to learn code, you can do logic graphs and logic flows. There's more support than ever. There's more opportunities to try to do things with tools made by the people. And the barriers to getting your game out there have never been this low. Anyone can do a green light, get on Steam. Practically anyone with a game can talk to the console platforms and work with them on bringing something out on a console, which is absolutely crazy to have a game on a console that doesn't have a budget of $10 million.
Yeah.
It's insane, but this is the reality of 2014. And so there's just abundance everywhere.
Anything else?
I feel like we're in the silver age of indie gaming, actually, since the early. I know my career only goes back 10 years, but I know historically that going back as far as and Rebecca here will know that Atari age, there were a golden age of indie developers, and I think we've returned to that where just about anyone can really make a game, without massive budget in the 90s. But here, we're looking at not just indie games being created, but really getting a lot of spotlight too when they're really successful. Gone Home, oh my God, that's have anyone heard of that?
I played That Dragon Cancer yesterday on the show floor, and after 2 minutes, I'm I have to stop, and I'm crying at PAX. The kind of stuff that we make now is incredible.
Awesome. Well, I think we got time for one, maybe two more before we open up for Q&A. So I'm going to go to the next one because I think this is an important question. What does the industry need to improve upon? Because I think we should address this. Some of the responses I got were stop hiring a bunch of people and then firing them a couple months later. Yes. Another one was fix the rampant sexism. There are more and more coming to light, but still need significant improvement. Fix the crunch layoff cycle. If we're project-based like films, we need to hire people on a per-project basis and compensate them accordingly. Let's be honest with ourselves. Realize this is a creative industry. Encourage activities outside of the industry. Pay everyone more overtime or for overtime. More risk-taking, more support for indies. What about you guys?
I think another thing that we could definitely improve upon, and this was a talk at this most recent Game Developers Conference, was outreach and specifically job postings. And I know Adam Saltzman, who did Cannibal, he's got a blog where he actually talked about how difficult it is to hire women in the industry. There's been a study, and I don't have the source for it, But if you look at a job posting and it says required and recommended, men will read the required as recommended and women will read the recommended as required. So you actually end up getting fewer women applying to positions. So it's from the very beginning of that hiring process that we need to be thinking about.
I'd like to see budgets come down in general.
Oh, yes.
Like the AAA is on a fuse, I think, and that puts a lot of people at risk. When you have a game that you need to sell so many copies, like Tomb Raider, that sells like 4 million copies, is considered a financial failure. Like that's insane. And so I would love, and that affects people's lives, because if these companies are spending so much money on games, they're not making a return on their investment.
And then you continue that crunch layoff cycle.
Right. So that, yes. So if we can bring the budgets down, that means that we can have shorter cycles, smaller teams, more individual input from all sorts of different angles, more games being made. That's what I think is a big improvement that the industry could benefit from.
Hire more gender non-conforming and people of color.
And older devs.
Yes.
Older devs too. Yeah.
Another thing I would like to add is I feel like managers or people up on top who's controlling all these game devs in this panel. Well, maybe not you because you're independent, but a lot of us, like in who has a publisher who need that we need to listen to, that we're basically kind of working for. They kind of need to listen to what the gamers want, the game devs, like what our problems are. Is our diversity issue, or is it a work life issue? They need to listen, because I feel like they're the ones who could really change. I mean, we could just talk about this all day long, but if they shut their doors and not listen and not ready to change, then there's no change going to happen at these bigger, at least like for some of these AAA studios, and that's what I feel like that needs to change, and people up on top just need to start listening to us.
All right, I think I'm going to try to do one more slide and then have about 10 minutes left for questions and answers. I want to do this one because I think it's an important one. Yeah, it's my favorite one too. It's a pretty good feel-good slide. If you could go back in time and give yourself advice when you first started making games, what would it be? Not much, just keep pushing. Finish everything, even the things that don't seem worth finishing. Learning to finish and what constitutes being finished is vital. Then the next one is, you never finish a game. You just eventually stop working on it. Don't stress so much. Do not get as frustrated with my lack of experience. I compared and still compare myself to my peers, but there are many years ahead of me, and I will get there.
So I'm currently reading Creativity Inc., which I highly recommend, especially if you are a manager in the industry or just really like listening to stories about Pixar. And there's a quote in the book that I wrote down because I need to be better at this. And it says, "I believe the best managers acknowledge and make room for what they do not know, not because humility is a virtue, but until one adopts this mindset, the most striking breakthroughs cannot occur." And I think a big part of that comes back to you need to be open to understanding other people's experiences, because that's where the creativity grows.
At least for me, you're going to get rejected a lot. You're going to send out so many applications and you're going to get rejected for like 100 of them before you get an interview. I mean, I was rejected for a dishwashing job once because I didn't have enough dishwashing experience. I mean, that's,
What is your kitchen like?
I eat Hot Pockets a lot. I can confess that.
You should take a picture of your cabinet, like your clean kitchen cabinets, and just be like, hire me.
But you're gonna get rejected a lot, and you're gonna fail a lot before you succeed. It's
But failure's okay.
Yeah.
I think you learn more from your failures than your successes.
It does suck though.
It sucks. I mean, it hurts.
It hurts. Yeah. But it is a learning moment, and that's the important thing, is just to keep trying. I mean, keep going. Don't stop.
To get enough.
The advice, I was thinking about this a lot because I'm not sure. The one that pops into my head is learn scripting. But honestly, I think it's a little bit more broad than that. It's open yourself up to cross-discipline expertise. Like, don't necessarily, like, when I was first learning, it was all about like specializing. You have to specialize, you have to specialize, you have to like pick a one thing, and you're going to be that one thing. And it's because games are so much more accessible now, it's actually in your best interest to diversify your expertise and reach out to people that aren't in your department and talk to them and learn from them. And
So diversity matters?
what? No, it doesn't. That's not what I'm saying. No, I mean, my advice would be to just be open to your other interests and don't like ignore them just because they don't serve your sort of like one goal, which is to get this specific job. Like, it's actually really cool to have other things going on in your life that isn't like for getting a job in like interviews, for instance. Like, oh, so what do you do when it's not special effects for video games? I'm like, oh, well, you know, I've been kind of working on like little shorts, and I'm like trying to learn scripting. I would have said if I was trying to learn scripting, but I was not. So, yeah, just don't be afraid. Don't be afraid of pursuing your other non-discipline, non-game interests. Like, you should go on that hike. Or don't. I actually hate hiking. It's dangerous.
Go ahead.
Oh, so yeah, I really agree with what Brittany said earlier. And, like, making mistakes is fine, but it's about learning from it. If you are not going to learn from your mistake, you're not going to get better. I mean, I think that's just in general. But something I would like to tell myself, like in the past, is basically listen to people and open your mind, your heart, whatever that is, and really listen. What I meant by that is you're going to face a lot of challenges. I've learned through design, because design is such a personal thing. Whenever you create something, even though sometimes when they give feedback, it feels a lot like they're giving feedback about you, but then in actuality, they were actually just giving feedback about your gameplay, about your level. They don't actually think you're a cool person. They just don't like that event that you created. Like, it's just not fun, or whether there's some things that you can improve on. And sometimes they can make suggestions and you're like, oh, that's stupid. And then you just shut it yourself out. I found myself doing that really early on. And that's something I've learned over time, where I just take a step back and be like, whenever I hear somebody say, oh, that's stupid, or let's, and just take a step back, come back to them and be like, okay, let's think about this, Joanna. What are they actually trying to say? Maybe their suggestion is not completely awful. I mean, it's just, it's just the idea that, like, listen what they're trying to solve. Because at the bottom line, there's a problem that they are trying to overcome here, and that's the thing that they don't like in your design. So figure out what their problem is. Then maybe if you really don't think that solution that they proposed will solve your design, propose some other solution to them. And usually you will find, surprisingly, they're actually more acceptable once you explain to them why their solution might not work either way. You know, so but sometimes if you actually do listen and not just like have an instant thought, oh, that's their idea, not mine, then you actually say, okay, yeah, that actually works. That will actually work. Or maybe if I add this to it, that will make it even better. So, yeah.
Cool. Is there any last notes before we open for Q&A? Okay, how about if you guys start lining up? And,
Yay, questions.
And you go ahead and
So in some ways, I kind of wouldn't want to spoil it for myself. Like, I think about myself like 8 years ago. But if I had to say something, I would say, believe in yourself. You will face more challenges than you've ever faced. Mm-hmm. You will do more amazing things than you ever thought possible. Mm-hmm. You will go places you never believed you would go, mm-hmm. and it's gonna be worth it. So just keep doing the work.
Awesome.
And yeah, that's it.
All right. Yay. Go ahead and ask us a question.
All right. So before I start, I want to give a gratuitous plug, because if you're sitting here in this room, then you might be from around the area, you might be interested in BeGirlCon, which is coming up in October. Yay! And at BeGirlCon, I'm doing a panel called If You Can Write, You Can Make Games, and I talked to a few people in line out front who were just like, oh, I just like games, I'm just kind of interested to hear what's you know, but I'm not a developer. I'm like, you could be a developer.
You can be.
So if you want, come to that panel or come talk to me afterwards and we can talk about things. And then the question I had was that, you know, I spend a lot of my time immersed in this conversation, and a lot of it's on like Twitter and stuff. And I was, you know, just this morning, having one of those mornings where I was reading through all of it, I'm like, oh God, this is starting to get really depressing. Like, it's just, you know, but you guys are all like super upbeat, especially you. You're just so upbeat. I love the whole thing, and I was just curious, like, what do you use to kind of stay in the conversation, not let it grind you down, keep positive?
So I want to thank actually Brianna for putting this panel together. Like, she did amazing work, and you guys don't see the giant email chains we had, but thank you so much for this.
They were intense.
They were super intense. But I think like you kind of hit the nail on the head. Like, we wanted to do a positive panel because there's so many panels about sexism and misogyny and harassment, and there's lots of venues to talk about that. But I think people forget that, like, no, the industry is awesome, and people may say like one bad thing to you, but there's hundreds of other awesome things that are said. And you just kind of have to realize, like everyone here is awesome. Like, if you've seen the Lego Movie, everything is awesome. Like, it really is. Like, just haters are gonna hate. Like, just be you and remember that you have an amazing community behind you. The game industry as a whole is super, super supportive. So just focus on that.
I like to meditate, which helps me kind of like keep clarity.
Oh, yeah, exercise is
regain
amazing.
clarity about like what's actually happening here, and how do I feel about it. And with your meditation, I can like feel my feelings, but not let them own me. Also, I unfollow people on Twitter,
Yes.
and I don't propagate
Get it out of
dramatic
your life.
conversations. It's just not worth it. It's draining.
Yeah, I usually don't engage the haters.
That's what they want.
Any other responses before we go to the next question?
I drink. My voice is a little hoarse, actually. I don't know if you noticed, but like, it's been a fun.
Yeah, it's been a fun
practice.
time.
All right, next question. Thank you.
So you're saying, Gwen, that you would like to see more specifically gender diverse people in the industry. And I know that this whole gender diversity thing is starting to become a really big thing to talk about, and it's becoming very that thing. Brianna, I think
Yes.
you were saying you don't want to forget about the older people that have that experience. My question, and
Brittany. Sarah.
yeah,
It'll be a quiz later.
and you were saying one of the things you found really interesting was getting to work with people who crossed fields.
Yes.
So how would you encourage that sort of thing to actually reach out to people of other fields? Hey, come join the industry, because you have some completely separate sorts of skills, but they can translate. How would you actually encourage?
This panel's a part of that.
Find them at the supermarket and tell them to quit their job and take them to your apartment and show them games, and like, honestly, talk about what you do to like randos, man. I'm like tired of people who have just been like in games and working in games. Like, the most fun conversations I have with people about games are not gamers.
Yes.
People who are here for the first time and like, oh yeah, I want to play that game maybe, and like, oh yeah, we should talk about it. And like, I was talking to someone earlier, like she didn't like necessarily not play games, but she's like not a gamer. But she and I were talking about the difference between games and toys, and that was really cool. And I feel like she's a nurse, and that's really cool. Like, that'd be cool if she would like get into games and see that it's like it's easy to do. And so this panel is part of that, and reaching out to people who you know in your life that isn't in video game development, which may be hard because pretty much all of my friends are video game.
Yeah.
Yeah. Make new friends.
Yeah, so when I went independent, I was looking for an office space, and I found one working with a group of architects. So I'm the one game developer in a little office with some architects. And like, they have these awesome books on the wall, and like, I was looking at this book about Japanese joinery, which is amazing. And like, kind of, I think being involved in like hearing their conversations has actually inspired ideas for my next game. And even Jesse, to your question, sorry, I know you just, I would actually even go to conferences about other fields. Like, I'm kind of thinking about going to like an astronomy conference, or like a a human rights conference, or like something like this, like to cross-contaminate ideas. It's like finding opportunities to do that. That can also happen like at a bar over a drink,
Yeah, definitely. Let's do the next question.
You got a minute for this.
Hi, this is actually my first PAX and really
Yay!
I mean, I grew up watching video games, playing them obviously, but my question for you ladies is, how did you know this is what you wanted to do?
Nintendo Power. So Nintendo Power and Zelda 64. I think time. It was like, oh my god, people sat in a room and made this game, and I feel this amazing experience. Can I do that? And then seeing like ads for schools and whatnot, and interviews with developers and magazines, it was like, I can do this. And I like math and I like science, and oh my god, you need those to make video games? That's amazing. Like, I'm gonna do this, and I just did it.
Oh man, I have a very like specific story. Like I played video games a lot, but like when I was like 14 or 15, Mortal Kombat Deadly Alliance came out on the Xbox, and they had this like little 10-minute special where they followed around Ed Boon in his like studio, and like he went into work at like 5 o'clock in the morning. It was dark, and like he's walking around like talking to all the people, and like I saw like one of the like Katana, her face map, and you can see it all bloody and stuff like that. I'm like, I don't even know what's even happening, and there's like toys everywhere, and like they're making Mortal Kombat, and I'm like, and he didn't leave until like almost midnight, and like kind of like, so that was like his day. Like we followed Ed Boon in his day, and I'm like, that's me. I would like to do that. I would like to be Ed Boon. That would be really cool.
Awesome. I think we got time for like one more, but if anyone else wants to stay after the panel, I'll be outside, and I'm assuming the rest of my panelists will be outside. Answer questions. That's why we got all our Twitter handles up there.
Be on Twitter.
Okay, go ahead.
Be on Twitter.
Hi, thanks for doing this panel.
You're welcome.
Could you talk about, you were talking about how it's difficult to hire, or people say it's difficult to hire women for games development. Could you talk a bit about paths for women into the industry, and maybe sometimes there are unconventional ways into the industry, or like people coming?
To kick it off quickly, I read this article a while ago about the way boys and girls are socialized. So in our society, boys are kind of expected to like cut up and act out and be kind of random and rough and tough. So when boys do something like they don't do their homework, then what's said is like, oh, we'll just try again, because like that's kind of expected of boys. But women are socialized to like be kind of perfect, like, right out of the womb, right?
Yeah.
So when a girl like messes up or fails or whatever, then the response from authorities is usually, well, I'm very disappointed. And that's like, oh, well, I must not be good enough. It's something that girls can internalize. So I think one thing that I would say is like, there's tons and tons of different paths. I'll let the others speak to that. But for the mentality of every woman out there, don't be afraid to fail, and don't rest on like not being good enough, because that's the biggest thing to keep you from moving forward. Like failure is always the first step to success. And just keep at it, because that's what makes the boys successful.
Thank you.
I had kind of a, I guess I have the same question that he has, because I feel like the path I took was sort of the typical one, actually. Like I went to the school, like a tech school, but I went for art. And I mean, we were like, women were a minority in the art department, but not nearly as much as like in the real-time science department or design or something like that. Like it was like 75-25, but it was like what, like 1 in 20?
Yeah, my freshman class had 200 people, and there were 7 women, and we graduated with like 103 women.
Yeah, like all together. So I think the path of least resistance, which is art, unfortunately, is still kind of hard. And there's if you want to get into games and you don't really care how, learn how to draw, or do what you really want to do. And I think your presence will encourage other women to join as well. Like, you don't have to exist in that like minority. You can grow it a little bit. Like add more to the numbers.
I wanted to say one last thing. I don't think that the only way for women to get in is through schools. I mean, I know that's how I did it. If you are like, I don't know, 40 years old and you work at a bank or something and you want to get into game development, it's never too late. I want to make sure that y'all know that. Like, if this is something you want to do, you can do it. It's hard, but there's so much information online. There's a big development community on Twitter. The best thing that we can do to get more women into development is to do panels like this and be like, hey, you know, you can do it.
Yeah.
I believe in you. I believe in all of you in the audience right now. All of you. I know you can. And you have it in you because I have it in me. So I believe in you. And I think that, yes, if you don't like what you do, you should make games because it's the best job in the world.
Yep.
And that's a fact.
You can do it.
Yeah.
All right. And I think that's the end. It's one of the